The edit had me in the beginning. I really thought it was going to be kind of bad. Welcome back to Ever Disney Movie Ever. My name is Jess and I'm watching Ever Disney Movie Ever. Today I'm going to talk about True Confessions. True Confessions is a 2002 Disney Channel original movie. It's directed by Paul Hohen, cinematography by Rudolf Blahacek, editing by Cindy Parisotto, music by Mason Daring, and it's written by Stu Krieger. The film is based off a book of the same name by Janet Tajian, and I couldn't find a decent summary, so I can't do the book comparison, movie comparison thing, or the book summary, however I do it. But I could find like a log line basically, and it said 12-year-old True wants her own TV show and to potentially find a cure for her developmentally challenged brother. The film stars Claire Bryant, who plays True, Shia LaBeouf, who plays Eddie, Mara Winningham, who plays Ginny, and William Francis McGuire, who plays Bob. The film was mostly shot in Toronto, with some scenes taking place at Danforth College and Technical Institute. I think there are a couple director problems. I think there are pieces of this movie that are hit or miss, which we'll touch on in different sections here. But directing-wise, there's a scene toward the beginning in the hallway at school between True and her two friends. And the scene falls really flat. It feels very like line ready. Like, oh my god, I can't believe it. Oh my god, yeah, what? Like, it just feels very flat. And the performances feel like not great and also rushed and very stiff. There is no movement in this hallway back and forth setup scene. So I don't know if it was filmed toward the beginning of production or maybe just really quick at the end of production. I don't know what was going on with the scene, because the second half of the movie is where the strengths of this film lie, and I will be touching on it multiple times in the next few sections. But there's just like the front half of this movie is way weaker than the second half, which can be contributed to a lot of people, but when it can be contributed to a lot of people, director's a big numero uno to blame. So while there's excellent parts of this movie, which we'll get to and love about, there's also problems, and I think Paul Hohen is to blame in this situation. Cinematography's in a similar zone where right at the beginning I was like, some of it seems a little too stationary, but then the movements that we did have were pretty good. And then there were a couple like animation sequences that like jump out at you in her imagination that were very fun, that I was like, okay, that's really fun, that's really good. And then the meadow scenes, like when she's dreaming, she's having these it's right at the beginning as well, but like they come into play a little bit more later with her and Eddie as young twins, were so stunning, sunset, golden hour shots, and those were really beautiful, really well done cinematography. And then the library scene, which get ready to hear about the library scene a lot. The library scene, I think, is probably the best scene in this movie, which is sad, but if you just took that scene out of the movie, it could be like a front to back little short of its own, like literally so fast. But like that entire scene is written, executed, shot, edited, acted perfectly. You start at the table where Eddie asks if he can get some more children's books. True says, yes, you know exactly where they are. They're over on those racks. He goes over, he gets those books. All of a sudden, the elevator door opens. He drops the book. The book gets kicked by someone into the elevator. He doesn't realize where he's going. He goes into the elevator, gets on the ground to pick up the book, turns around. There's a ton of people in front of him blocking the elevator entrance, and all of a sudden now he's going down a couple floors, and he doesn't know where he's going. He doesn't know how to get back to True. He exits the elevator, and now he's in like a very big section that is towering library shelves of books, and he can't see True. He can't find True. He starts wandering these libraries. It's building attention. All of a sudden, because his panic is building, our panic is building, and then he screams for True, and it like comes to this climactic like, oh my god, and then True and her friend hear him, and they come running like it's its own short, and then they find him, and it's such a fantastic scene. We're talking about the cinematography though. So the cinematography in this scene is amazing. The shots they chose to help you feel as panicked as Eddie feels when he's like quickly wandering down the like book halls. What would you call those? Aisles. And you're like looking and like you're zooming down them, and they're handheld and they're shaky to give you that panicky, and like the lens length they chose to make the shelves just feel so big and wide, like narrow but wide, and So good. So good. The edit had me in the beginning. I really thought it was going to be kind of bad, because right at the beginning, True's doing like this intro video diary thing that is very like early 2000s Disney movie intro that is kind of cringe. And they didn't have a lot of shots for that, so they kept editing between like the same 3 shots to give it like this like kind of quicker flow, where it probably would have just been better if it just stayed on True, because I think it was kind of maybe going for like a Quince opening, and the Quince opening is really good. And this was trying, I think, to maybe be that, and it wasn't. So I was like, oh no, is the editing going to be like kind of repetitive and kind of no. The editing, I think, might be the thing that shines in this movie, because the slow-mo catch montage scene was really well edited. The scene where she shows like her first version of the video about her brother, where it's really scientific and it's really boring, not only are we seeing pieces of that edited together that they had to edit together, but then we're also seeing like everybody's reaction, and they like made the video go faster by overlapping stuff, and like that edit was also really well done and like told the story in a really great visual way with the edit. And then the edit of the scene where frickin' Paolo from Lizzie McGuire movie, I had no idea he was in this. I didn't know he was in another Disney movie. He showed up and I was like, how do I know this guy? This guy is super familiar. And because he had short hair, it didn't click for me the first time I saw him. That is frickin' Paolo from the Lizzie McGuire movie. Turns out to be a jerkweed in this one too. The scene where she walks up and realizes that he gave this hat to Eddie and is like, oh, what? And she's got a massive crush on him. And then he turns out to be a total freaking turd blossom and calls her brother the R word. The edit in that scene was immaculate. Just the building, like, of like him being like, oh, well, isn't it be nice to an R word week? Which, let's not talk about the movie throwing around the R word a couple times, quite a few times. Eddie even calls himself the R word, was not about it. And they definitely have it be like it's a negative thing that they're saying, but like shouldn't just be thrown around the R word, you know what I mean, in a children's movie. But whatever, I digress. He says that, and like there's a shot of True that and just the way that whole scene's edited, when it comes to that shot of True, the bottom falls out on you. Your stomach sinks. You feel exactly how she feels in that reveal that this guy she's had a major crush on just called her brother the R word and spit in a hat and gave it to Eddie to wear. And like, you like, oh, the edit in that scene, just your stomach bottoms out and you're just like, oh my God. And she like, oh, so good. And then, as I said, I know I just gushed about the library scene, but the camera work could have been really good in that scene, but if the edit had blown, that scene wouldn't have been nearly as good as it is. The reason that scene is as good as it is, and is as like perfect little like arc of its own little story in this moment, is because of the editing. We owe that entirely to the editor. That scene is, if I could pick a scene from this movie to just like show to people, it would be that scene. The music is actually where a lot of my problems with this movie lie. Not a lot of my problems, but one of my bigger problems with this movie lie. I feel like at the beginning, first of all, there's like some random like song they keep using that like sounded very space music-y. Like it was meant to be for like a space movie, and I was like, what are we doing? Like what is that? I don't understand. And then the music like in the baseball montage was good. And then like again, a track record here. The first half, the music felt like it was very much trying to like tell me how to feel. It was giving me very big like, this movie's profound and this movie's supposed to like be so incredible, and this like, that's how the music felt in the first half to me. And then in the second half, I guess maybe when everybody else elevated their quality, I suppose, the music started to feel more appropriate. But I feel like also the music started to be more appropriate. It was less like spacey and started to fit the mood a bit better, because there was stuff earlier that like, it just felt like it was not the same mood, which could have been on purpose, which would be a very interesting choice. And then thinking about that, I'm like, oh, if that were a conscious choice, I might vibe with it, but I'm not sure if it was. And then the library scene. The music was perfect. Literally the library scene, guys. Just the library scene, okay? In a shocking turn of events, this movie does voiceover and like a video diary moment, so it is still keeping in that late 90s, early 2000s theme. This movie has quite a bit of foreshadowing. There's a couple moments where she says something about like, this video diary is private, which is like, okay, so eventually it's not going to be. She's going to use things from her video diary for this video that she makes to be on TV. And then there was also like a lot of her dad can't be there. He can never be there. He's really nasty when he is there. There was a lot of foreshadowing that something was going to happen with the dad. Either the dad's eyes were going to be opened by seeing himself be terrible or something else. But they were doing a lot of foreshadowing with that. And segueing perfectly into, oh, this dad blows. I am so triggered by the dad in this movie. He's the freaking worst. He's never home, and then when he is home, his temper fuses like that. And so when Eddie accidentally drops something, the dad freaks out and is like screaming at him, and Eddie is disabled. So like, that's really great. So I have to kudos Stu Krieger, because I hated the dad, and for me to hate the dad, he had to be well written and well acted. Way to go, William Francis McGuire. But had to be well written at first. And so like, Stu Krieger, bravo, because I hated the dad. Hated him. I couldn't wait. I was hoping he would see footage of him being so nasty and eat crow, okay? Because he was the worst. Writers did a great job there. That's all I gotta say about that. As I have continued to say, front half of this movie, no. Couldn't find a tone. It was really struggling between trying to be like this profound movie and also being like a movie for kids, which like, movies for kids can be profound. I don't understand why they like, you know, struggle with that so much. I mean, it's hard to write something like that, but you know what I'm trying to say. The last 30 minutes of this movie are, I think, where it really thrives. So I think like they knew what they wanted it to be. They didn't know how they were going to get there. Which I think isn't surprising for Stu Krieger. I think Stu Krieger really has had some like hit or misses. And this is based off a book, so I have no idea, like, because I couldn't find a good summary, I don't know how much they were faithful to the book. But there were some really great scenes, like the "Are you mad at me" scene, the library scene, the scene where the dude turns out to be a jerk, like, and then the dad seeing the videos, like, so there were some really great scenes at the tail end of this, for sure. But again, I think everybody kind of here is to blame, but the director could have maybe steered them in a better direction. Shia LaBeouf, incredible. An incredible performance. He did a really great job. But that's not shocking. It's Shia LaBeouf. Shia LaBeouf has always been an incredible actor. So he fantastic job. I think the mom, Mare Winningham, also, so good. And then William Francis McGuire also did a good job because I hated him so much. So he must have done a good job. Sadly, I think Clara Bryant was one of the weaker ones. Granted, I did care very much about this movie at the end, and she was stronger in the moments where she had to be like sad or upset for Eddie. She was stronger in those moments. It was the moments where she had to be like, you know, uppity and very early teen-ish that she didn't do as well, which makes me wonder how old she was when she filmed this. Because if she were a little bit older, maybe it was hard for her to channel that again. Because I feel like she kind of was one of the... Granted, William Francis isn't in it as much, so like I could consider him the weaker one, but I hated him, so like he did a good job. But I feel like Clara was one of the weaker links here. I think, besides the two friends are barely in it and they weren't very good. But that could be a director problem, to be fair. Again, like I feel like Clara does a better job in the second half, so that could also be a director problem. I haven't seen Clara in other things, so I can't judge her acting from other films or shows. But from this, it feels very much like she not thrived, but she did better and felt more confident in the stuff where she had to be upset or more touching or like a little sadder or more dramatic, versus the stuff where she was like, Eddie, don't do that, and oh, my own video diary, and oh my god, guys, I tried out with this thing, and like, she wasn't very good at that stuff. Sorry, that felt very mean, but I was just trying to give you an example. But obviously, she pulls it together because Shia in the kite scene and the Are You Mad at Me scene. Oh! And then this Clara's acting in the scene where she finds out her crush is awful to her brother. Unparalleled. And then the library scene. And pulling the sad footage for her true, like, video about her brother. Whew. All good. When I tell you my reaction to Paolo being in this movie, like, I was like, what the frick is happening? That Paolo's in this movie. And then I had a visceral reaction to when the dad and the mom had this scene after the first dinner scene where Eddie breaks the broccoli bowl. The way he spoke to Ginny. Oh, no. I would have punched this man in the face if I had been present for a conversation like that. Though he condescends to her, and then he, like, says, don't tell me how I should about my son. And then, like, there's later in the movie when he says, they're all yours, and runs out the door. Like, I can't stand, like, ooh, the dad. That's my and then, like, when the cute boy, Paolo, turns out to be a jerk again. Or before, technically. Made me all visceral reactions. And then there were moments that I was like, ugh, like when True said, sometimes I think my dad would rather not be here. Ha! Ouchie! And then my heart also, like, really felt for the mom in this movie. I felt like True was being so just harsh to her mom when you can tell that her mom is truly just trying to be there for her and wants to be with, like, be her mom. And I was curious because I was like, my heart was like being torn out of my chest for True and her mom's relationship. And I was curious because I've never seen this movie. If I had seen this when I was young, like when I was 13 or 14, would I have felt bad for the mom? I feel like I would have, because I always kind of felt bad for the mom, unless like the parents were being like at the time, like totally unreasonable. But her mom in this one, like, is just trying to like love her and be supportive and feels like she can't win. So I feel like it is intentional that you're supposed to feel for the mom and be like, yo, True, you're kind of being a brat. Like, you're kind of being a turd blossom. So I feel like I would have felt for the mom, but part of me is like, would I have felt less for her had I not been 28 years old when I was seeing this movie for the first time? But oh man, the I hate you moment, and just like the moment where the mom is trying to be like, I wish there were more of you in the movie, and like True just takes it as blatant horrible criticism and stuff like that. Like, ooh, I felt for the mom so deeply. And then this whole, like, her wanting to have her own TV show, and she keeps this video diary, really made me think of, I don't know who has seen Bo Burnham's specials, but he did a special, I believe it's Make Happy, where he does this whole, like, monologue soliloquy thing, where he talks about the generation before us created a generation that wanted to perform, and they created platforms for them to do it, and it created this toxic thing. And it just made me think about how, like, when I was watching this movie, I wasn't the person making them. The people making them, like, were showing me characters that wanted to keep video diaries, that wanted to keep, like, be famous, that wanted, and like, so it's almost like it was fed to us that, like, you want to be famous, and it just made me think about that. I was getting very meta in my brain and stuff, and like, there's nothing wrong with like wanting to have a YouTube channel and have whatever, but like, also, like, were we taught that, like, were we taught that you should want a YouTube channel and you should want to be famous and you should want to be perform, and then here we go, we created these platforms for you to perform, and we make a bunch of money off of it. We created you, who wants to perform, and then we created these platforms for you to perform, and we make money off of it. Like, that's what it made me think about that. So if you've never seen Make Happy and seen him do that soliloquy monologue thing, highly recommend. The scene where Paolo turns out to be a jerk is the worst, and I had a another visceral reaction to that. And then the librarian that is mean to Eddie. No, sir. I would have punched you in the face too. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I did sob watching this. So I really, in the first half, I was like, oh no, this is going to be like bad. I'm not going to like this at all. And in the second half, the library scene specifically, ugly crying. Just straight ugly tears. So good. And then at the end, when the dad is like, why wasn't I in it? Because I'm never here. Like, he realizes he's never home, so he's not in the footage. And then he's like, I can't, he goes to True and he's like, I can't believe you don't have any footage of me. And she's like, no, but like, I don't think you would have liked the footage I have of you in it. And he's like, what are you talking about? Let me see it. And then it's like every single clip she has of her dad is him getting mad at Eddie and being nasty or being like, I have to go to work, I'm on the phone with work, or whatever. And that scene was just like, yes, I needed this. This vindication. So good. I think this one's obvious lesson is we learned acceptance, appreciation, love, vulnerability, like the value in being vulnerable and being open. And then I think the dad learned not to be a frickin' turd and a half. Okay? But no, I think we truly, like, what the line that, like, totally was like, ugh, was when she was talking to her dad and she was like, you know, Eddie, like, we are Eddie's whole world and he just loves us. And I think all we have to do is just love him back. Like, we don't have to, like, get him to be better or get him to, like, learn more things or whatever. Like, we just need to love him and he'll reach his full potential if we just love him. And, like, that, so good. And then, like, the lesson for True of, like, the value in being vulnerable and opening up and letting yourself, like, show the world the ups and downs of your family. Like, people love when you are true. And then acceptance of the fact that, like, you know, like, the scene where she has to accept, like, that she will be continuing on to college and to adulthood without her twin brother Eddie, because he's just not there yet. He's delayed. And, like, that, like, the acceptance of not only Eddie and whatever his full potential may or may not be, the acceptance of, like, she's gonna have to do stuff without him, her twin brother, and, like, oh, it's just, those lessons were so good. That's everything I have for True Confessions. This new format is long, so I might have to rework this. We'll see. You guys are still, tell me down below if you like this new format, if you miss knowing what people are best known for or not. I feel like it's not necessary because I'm more supposed to be talking, not supposed to, but I'd rather be talking about the movie more in depth. If you want me to make it, like, shorter, let me know, because I think I might want to try and make it shorter. It feels very long right now. Maybe I'll try to be less repetitive. I don't know, but, like, I feel like I'm just, ooh. Anyway, my final rating is 6 video cameras out of 10. Our total movie count is parent death toll. No, our cry count is. Parent death toll is still the same. If you want to keep up with what movie I'm watching when, follow me on Instagram and Twitter. You'll find out what movie I'm watching when. I put up videos every Monday, Friday, and sometimes Wednesday. Join Patreon. Tons of stuff always going on over there. Buy merch. I'm not wearing merch, but look at how cute the shirt is. But buy merch. Merch is super great. I really need to decide on something new. Okay. What do you want to see? Let me know. Down below. Tell me what you want to see on merch. Until next time, come like, subscribe, but I'm not in charge of your life. You are, so do you, and don't be Paolo. I forget what his name is in this movie, but don't be Paolo about it. Kid was a jerk. This took too long. Note to self.